You caught me clean the screen. Welcome to. I'm gonna do that right now. I don't mind. Sorry. Okay, finally. Welcome to. I was going to say mastermind meeting, but the reality is that this no longer fits that concept. So I'm gonna change it. So this is just an educational video that I'm gonna do for you guys, so that way we can get in the track of doing videos again. I have taken a small break, but I'm going to start them one more time. So it instead of mastermind, which is what I have been doing the second Tuesday of the month, we'll do educational videos. I asked on my stories a couple of days ago if you guys had any questions, and the things that I've seen in the industry lately is that everybody's worried that we're not booking clients, that the season right now is slow when we should have, if not back to back events, at least we should be busy. And it's not the case right now. And there's so many things going on in the country and in the world overall that is part of it. But a lot of the things that we can do um, are things that is seasonal. It's seasonal. Whenever we have a season of a slow bookings, there's many things that we can do instead of just not doing anything or panicking. If you probably had a year last year, or if you had a season already this year in where you think that you need the rest, please take it. Please take the vacation. Please take the time off, so that way you can recharge, you can get more energy. But if you are willing to work and wanting to work and doing some of the stuff and working in your business, one of the things that you can do is education. And that I will give you a few points, but the first one is definitely education. This is the timing where you, if this is a slow season for you, you can educate yourself as much as you want and as often as you like. It doesn't mean that you have to hit the books or take all the classes, take all the master classes, buy all the courses, and buy all the programs and try to involve yourself into business things. It just means that probably you already have an idea of what you want to take care of at this moment. So, for example, if you know that you have to see your numbers, you have to get with an accountant or a bookkeeper, get information about that and then work on that. If you think that this is the time to know more about a sales funnel and how it works and how you can apply one that works for you in your the industry, well, in the event industry, but in your specific service, then get information of that. If you are, for example, a decorator, a balloon artist, if you work hands on, if you're a photographer, a baker, if you are any of those professionals and you need more hands on training, this is the timing where actually have time to do those things. So education is one of the things that nobody can take away from you, no matter how many hours you put into it, no matter how much you have. All of that is going to always be useful to your business. So one of the things that you can do is educate yourself. Of course, I'm going to offer you to be part of Event Decor Academy if you're a designer or if you are a decorator as myself. This is a 12-week program in where we fully immerse you into everything and anything that has to do with the business. I do have a second option, which is only 6 weeks, and that is Event Decor Academy Essentials. And that is like the whole program, the 12-week program, but a speeded up version that is gonna give you results at the same time. And then we're gonna keep going with the concept of the mastermind. The masterminds is gonna change a little bit. I don't know exactly how, but I will be making announcements soon. And I do have a workshop coming up the first week of September. So I'll keep you posted. But the one thing that I want to make sure that you know about is to book or to grab your free ticket for the Book More Weddings Summit, which is hosted by Heidi Thompson. I have been sharing that. I'll put it on the notes of this, but I'll be one of the speakers among many others. I believe there are 45 speakers overall. So this is a great time to book. It is completely free. You do have the option to get more choices or more education. There is a couple of choices where you can get more information and more workshops and things and templates and all of that. But if you just grab the ticket, it's 4 days full of information that you can apply right away to your business. So I want you to either go to my stories, go to my social media pages, and then I'll put it on here, to so you are able to get more education, and so you're able to apply all that knowledge into booking more weddings or more events, not necessarily weddings, but making more bookings at this time that is kind of slow. So please go grab your ticket. And remember, it's free. It's free. That there's not a lot of places where it will give you this much information for free. All right. So the second one is I want to talk about, yes, I know that it's hard right now. I know that the things that we have seen in this year are a little bit different from when we were in COVID, because during COVID, when we were in lockdown, nobody could do events. This is a time where nobody's choosing to do events, and it's not nobody. There are people that are getting married, there are people that are doing parties, but it's not necessarily the same because this is optional right now. And it has happened before. I've been in business for 20 years, and it happened during the recession of 2013. No, I want to say 2011. There was a time where it was slow in 2008, when a lot of people were losing their houses. It happened there as well. So there are times in history where things are slow because of the economic situation, because of everything that is going on in the world. And this is one of those times. So there is no need to panic, especially if you have been in business for a few years, in where you haven't had that up and down in the industry. You probably, if you have been in business for, I would say, 2 to 4 years, maybe you haven't had that dip, because it goes on all the time. There's always a dip in where we don't have that many bookings, we don't have that many events, and this is one of them. So don't panic. It's not a you thing. It's probably a world economic situation, but there are things that you can do. One of them is that I would avoid at whatever cost, if possible. I understand the situation, but if possible, please avoid giving discounts. Not only because it depreciates the value of your services, but also because it hurts the whole industry. When you give out discounts, not only you're saying I can do it for cheaper and I want the money, and I understand the situation in where if you don't have any events and then somebody comes back and say, yeah, I can do it, but I want to do it for less, and they give you an amount, or they're asking for a percentage of a discount. If everybody in the industry says yes to all these requests, our value is gonna go down. The value of our services is gonna go down. And then next year, when things gets better, on when the time comes and things get better, and you wanna charge the value of what it is, the clientele is going to be like, well, I didn't pay for those services before, I didn't pay those amounts before, why would I now, what would I do that now? And also, if they're comparing prices in between a couple of vendors, it is very hard for a client to choose quality over quantity of what they're getting for the amount. We all want to make sure that we can stretch the money as far as we can. However, for a person that doesn't throw a party very often, or they don't have a wedding or a quinceañera very often, of course they don't know that this has been the norm for the past few years. So they want to compare it to when they either had another event 5 years ago, to a family member, or a friend that had an event a couple of years ago. So they're always going to be comparing it. But if the discrepancy is so much, they're going to think that you, instead of thinking, well, she is or he is playing value in their services, they're going to think, well, they're delusional. They're just charging a lot of money for this instead of this other person that is charging not so much. So I'm going to go with this other person that is less money for the same amount of work. And that's not necessarily true. The people that sometimes offer discounts and they go a lower price is because they think that they're not gonna get a lot of clients. So it's better to have one than none. And like I said, I do understand that sometimes could be the case, especially if your overhead, if you have an overhead so big that you need money, you need income in order to keep your overhead paid. I understand that. However, the discount has to be something. If that is the case, the discount has to be something that is normal. That in the way that it's not like you're giving 50% off. It's just like making maybe a little bit less. What I would suggest instead of giving a discount is to offer something of value for free. And we can go over this in another video because I think I can, that is a whole separate subject. But a quick example is like if you have a balloon artist, for example, and they want to have a garland and then an entrance and then 2 columns, you can, and they ask you for a discount, you can say, yeah, I can do all of that, and then I'll add a number bouquet for free, because the materials for that is not so much where you can gift it to your client. But if you give discount, you're giving the discount to your overhead, to your expenses, to your materials, to your staff if you have any. So like I said, giving discounts, try to avoid that. I know that sometimes is necessary, but there's other ways that we can work around it. And I think I'm going to prepare a video, an educational video about it, because there's so much to talk about and to discuss in that just a specific subject. Another one is that this time where it's slow, when you don't have that many stuff going on, maybe it's a good time to cross off things from your to-do list. Maybe if you have been thinking about updating your website, backing up your pictures, going through your inventory and checking to see what you need, what you don't need, maybe selling some stuff. Maybe you go through everything that you have and you think, well, I haven't used this in a few years, I'm going to sell it. And then you get a little bit of income. I know it's not the same as having an event, but you can still get some income from that. So if you have been thinking about purging your to-do list, this is the time to do it, because there's no other time that is going to be urgent. Or maybe there's going to be another time where it's going to be urgent and you're just going to do it fast and maybe not intentional. So this is a good time to go through your list of the things. As business owners, we all have things to do. We all have stuff that we want to do, but we always said we don't have the time to do it. So this is the time in where you can sit down, go through your list, see what is the most important thing and start from there, or the most difficult thing. If you have time to complete it, just do it, and then you can go down the list and crossing things off. And by the end, even if you don't cross every single thing on your list, or even if you don't complete every single project that you have had in mind, you're gonna feel so good, because these are things that we usually postpone or procrastinate about because we don't have the time, or we're working, or we're doing events. So this is the time to complete those projects at the moment. Another one, going back to the clients, going back to checking with the clients and seeing the few clients that reach out to you. What can I do to book their events? What can I do to get those deposit sounds for the events? If I'm not giving discounts, or if I'm not giving extra stuff that other businesses may be doing. One of the things that you can do is to follow up what I have seen in the industry in the last few months is that a lot of the people that are asking for prices ask not only one, two, or three places, because with technology we don't call anymore. Most of the time you will get inquiries by text, websites, or social media. And then so your client is not asking for two or three codes, they're asking for in an average 7 to 9 vendors for the same service. So if they're going through all those profiles, if they're going through all those websites, more likely is that they either forget about, they get confused about who said what, about who said what price, or maybe they saw your work and they loved it, but then they saw somebody else, and you follow up with them and you show your professionalism and you are the one reaching out to them, and they like that kind of customer service, so they book with you. So this is a good time to follow up. Not only once, not only twice. I have seen some businesses that follow up to 10 times or until they get a no. So this is a great time to follow up with your clients. Another thing that I have seen lately is that clients are not necessarily reaching out and asking for quotes and then they book somebody. Sometimes, especially like for bigger events like weddings and quinceañeras, sometimes they're requesting, like say that they need a catering company. So they request, let's say the average is between 6 and 8 quotes. They're requesting those 8 quotes and then they talk about it, but they don't necessarily make a decision. But they also know that they need a DJ, so they start looking for a DJ without booking the catering company. They already looking for a DJ without booking the catering company. So they are moving on quickly to whatever is like the shiny object syndrome kind of. So like if this gets too complicated, if the quotes are getting too complicated for the catering, if they don't know the decision that they're going to make, they move on to another easy thing or another vendor that they need to have, and then they go back to the catering. So it's not necessarily that they book with somebody else. It could be that they're just looking at different vendors. So when you go in and follow up and say, hey, I just want to see what do you think about the quote? Do you want to make any changes? Is there anything that you want to talk about? And again, the good customer service sometimes surpasses the quality of other vendors. Not that vendors are bad or good. It's just like sometimes the customer service is much better in in a couple of vendors than others. And talking about how the clientele has changed over the last few years, especially much more specifically the last couple of years, is that our clients are getting younger. So this is a generation in where they want everything right away and they want everything digital if possible. So as much as you can provide information through your websites, through your social media pages, through text or emails, or I would say phone conversations, but not many clients are talking on the phone nowadays. As much as information that you can give before they reach out to you through website, social media, and all of these other platforms, as much as you can give, they're going to have a bigger and a better knowledge of how your services work. Maybe if you talk all the time, well, in order to book your date, I need a deposit. They're not gonna get surprised when you ask for it because you already said on your social media, you already have it on your website that you need a deposit. So it's not gonna be a surprise to them. If you said my minimum is $1,000 and you mentioned that on one of your reels and you mentioned that when you gave them the quote, then they're not going to be surprised when you mention that again when you're asking for the deposit. So small things like that, when the more education that you give to your clients and the more information that you give before they reach out to you or while they're in the process, while you guys are in the process of booking a consultation or getting a quote or an estimate to them, the less surprised that they're going to be, because they know a lot about your services and how the industry works. One of the things that I was talking to another vendor in a networking event that I went to last week was One of the things that it has worked for us is to have educational reels or stories in our social media pages, specifically on TikTok and Instagram. When we talk about how much it takes us, that is not just a fun weekend job for us, but how long it takes to prepare for a job, how long it takes to do and actually set up everything for an event. The client, it doesn't hesitate a lot into giving you a deposit or into paying for the service, because they already have seen this, even if it's not necessarily you that are doing it and they saw it from a different vendor. They have that knowledge ingrained already in where you don't have to fight for them to pay the price that you're requesting. And then lastly, I want to talk about um, the other part of education, which is, well, the education that you get, and then the education that you get for you to run your business, and then the education that you give your clients or your possible clients. So I know that a lot of people are against into giving free consultations, or into doing mock-ups. But like I said, many of the clients are visual and they want to see how the things are going to look. So one of the things that I have implemented lately is to do Zoom consultations. It started with COVID, but then most of the people want just to do it because of out of convenience. They don't have to drive to a place. They don't have to meet you in person. They can just get it done in maybe an hour. But one of the things is that I have them fill out a 7 question um, email, in where it gives me the most information, the most specific information, but also the one that is going to set the tone for the rest of the consultation. So then I can do a mock-up of their colors. More because I am a designer and a decorator, that helps a lot with their vision. I do a mock-up and it's not fancy and it's not um sometimes if it's a Zoom consultation, it is not necessarily that I can show them a table. It's just a picture. If I have pictures of previous events that match their theme, I show them those pictures. And if I haven't done anything, I haven't played that much with Canva mockups, but I have played with AI images. And I do disclose these are AI images, but I just want you to see how the colors are going to look. And then I show them pictures, real pictures of my designs and my decor, where I can tell them this is how it's going to look, but in your colors. So by being more visual, it helps so much for a client to know that their vision is going to come through. So again, the more information that you give them beforehand, they're not going to hesitate when they put the deposit down for your services. So I know that a lot of people in the industry say not to give free mock-ups, more information like that. But I think that is worth it. I think that when you use it correctly, like if you do a Canva mockup, watermark it, put your logo on it, um, it doesn't prevent the client to share it with somebody else, and it doesn't prevent somebody to use it and go with another vendor to request a quote with a different vendor. But it gives you peace of mind that you are doing everything that you can that is within your power to book that client. So with that said, I think that I'm going to wrap this up. I did have a couple of questions. I was forgetting about that. I did have a couple of questions that somebody sent me through the stories, so I'll address those. There are more towards how the industry is right now. So one of them, I'm gonna go here and check. So one of them was, if I remember correctly, it said, "What is the one thing that I can do right now that it doesn't cost a lot of money that I can implement into getting more clients?" And I mention it again, is education. There's many free master classes. There's many information out there that you can do. YouTube videos like this one, YouTube videos that are more hands-on, that will give you technique, that will give you about organization and systems in your business. So there's a lot of things that you can do in that way. So Again, grab your ticket for the Book of More Wedding Summit, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, try to have friends in the industry where you can share opinions, and that's why Mastermind was created, Dream Mastermind was created. So things like that are going to help you a lot. So yeah, more education for you and for your clients definitely is going to help a lot with into booking more people. And then the other one was, what can I do to bring the cost down for the things that I'm doing right now? And that makes a lot of sense. If you are not doing events right now, but you still have overhead to pay, what can I do so I don't have to pay a lot? So, for example, one of the things that I would suggest right away is that if you do have a staff, let them know that it's going to be slower this season. If you do have a staff, it's not that that you're not gonna call them the rest of the year, but that you're probably, instead of taking 5 people with you, you're only gonna take 2 or 3 because there's less people. So staff costs sometimes are the ones that are going to make the bigger difference. Another one is, if you have in your overhead expenses things that you pay because they're not necessary, but you need them at some point. For example, if you have an upgraded version of a software, but you think that you can go get away with having the a less expensive version or a free version of that, you can downgrade it for a little bit, for a while things get better. One of them I would think is QuickBooks. If you do, for example, your books on QuickBooks and you have the premium version and you pay, I'm making things like numbers up, I don't know exactly how much it is. But if you pay 120 a month to have QuickBooks, but you know that you cannot pay that, then downgrade to the $50 a month version. And when things get better, you can upgrade again, if that is a possibility. If you are paying for memberships that you're not using, we all do that, not only in our lives, but also in our businesses. If you're paying for memberships that you're not using, cancel those. If you don't want to cancel, you can freeze some of them, and I would think that that will help a lot. If you're not working that much, maybe your utilities are not that much, so the costs are probably go down, but like electricity, gas for your car, and things like that. And one of the things that you can do is, if you do a lot of consultations in person and you have to pay for electricity and or an office, or gas, or Starbucks, if you meet them at or not Starbucks, but a coffee shop or things like that, maybe you can cost those things. You can cut those costs by booking some consultations or by doing phone calls, whatever works. So check your overhead expenses and see what it can be cut down, and that will help you to bring the expenses down. One of the things that I wouldn't do is to go with cheaper material just to cut the cost down, because that would mean that your services are going to be cheaper, yes, but that means, or maybe you're not doing the services cheaper, the material cheaper, but the quality of your services are not going to be the same. So I wouldn't do that, because then if you already are at a level in where your services are professional, you are known because of that professional services. If you start bringing material that is not, for example, if you do Fox Floral and you start bringing roses that look very see-through, that are not in bright colors, that they look like you got them at a retail store, it's not gonna be the same as when you show them one thing and then you deliver another. For example, balloons. We know that we love brands like Tuftex and Sempertex and Calisan, but then if you start putting the Amazon kits, I know sometimes they're good, but if that is all you do, if you start putting Amazon kits, if you go to Walmart to get balloons, if you do the cheaper version of the cheaper quality of balloons, then your work is going to start looking very different. And that is one of the things why people hire you, because of the quality of your work. So I wouldn't do that on materials. The material should stay the same. Maybe there's way to cut down depending on what you do, but I wouldn't. That wouldn't be my first choice. I would first look at my overhead expenses and see what can I cut from there, that it doesn't affect me, that I don't need it, that is maybe an upgrade that I wanted to get, in order to cut those expenses while we don't have that many clients right now. All right, so I think those are I only got a couple of questions this time, but I did wanted to talk about how what things you can do while the market picks up. We don't know. As far as I've heard, there's no specific prediction of when it's gonna get better. We'll hope that is going to be next year. We don't know when next year, because also the booking time frames have changed. So it used to be months and months ahead. Now we have seen a couple of months, even weeks, even like from one week to another, they book our services. So we don't know. From what I've heard, the professionals from other professionals, we don't know when this is going to get better. But there are still things that you can do. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you do need the rest, if you need the recharge done, because everybody else is doing it, because I'm giving you all these suggestions, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to put that into work right now. If you need the rest, go ahead and rest. If you need the time off, if your children, if you have children and they're still on vacation time right now, it is a good time to enjoy them. And then when things get better, then we'll go back and pick up and get your education and get things on track. All right. So far that would be it from me today. Hopefully, I get to see you in social media, and then there's other. Hopefully, I get to see you at the Book More Wedding Summit, and there's more videos that you can see on here. I will try to make at least once a week from now on. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.